All right, let's dive in with Wilson and Bryant McFadden. Guys, this game's sort of a microcosm of what the season has been for these two teams. Not what we were promised. We get Colt McCoy and John Wolford with not a whole lot on the line. So I'll go your way first here, Ryan. What did you learn about either of these teams? Was this a moment for Arizona to lean on, or was this just a game that happened?
I think you put it best, Joe, when you said not what we were promised, because that feels about right. It felt like a preseason game where you're throwing your two backup quarterbacks in there to get a little work just in case of emergency. You might need them down the road. Down the road turned out to be this Sunday. But both these teams are spinning their wheels. They're, as BMAC likes to call it, in the way team in both regards. I think one of the funnest facts I found is that somehow the Cardinals are 11-3 on the road since 2021. That's the best in the NFL. Watching the way this team has played this season, that seems like an impossibility. Part of me also wonders if this will be a reason for Cliff Kingsbury to say very quietly, look, it's not me, it's Cliff Kingsbury. I can win with Colt McCoy. When I think, in fact, the problem, as we talk about every week, is Cliff Kingsbury. I don't think Kyler Murray is the biggest issue facing this team. There are things he certainly needs to iron out, but he wasn't there today. So not much you can take away from this game unless you like watching preseason football in November, and I think it's a win for the Cardinals, and I don't think the Rams are going anywhere prior to Sunday anyway. The biggest issue, as you noted, is the health of Cooper Kupp going forward.
Yeah, I think that's the biggest issue for this game. Both teams clearly playoff hopes down the drain, especially the Los Angeles Rams. But not knowing the status of your superstar wide receiver is huge, because at some point in time you would think maybe next week you can get your starting quarterback back in Matthew Stafford. We know Matthew Stafford relies a lot on Cooper Kupp. The offense moves, and they rely a lot on Cooper Kupp. So not knowing his status, seeing that injury is something that you need to monitor from here on out, especially getting ready for next week's ball game, because clearly if they don't have Cooper Kupp in the lineup, I don't care if you have a healthy Matthew Stafford, you're not going to do much.
BMAC, are you ready to flush Arizona here after this win? Or
yes.
Can they maybe use – okay, he's ready to flush them. They're 4-6.
Yeah.
They're not too far back in that division that's currently led by Seattle. We'll see what San Francisco does on Sunday Night Football. A win is expected there by our friends at Caesar Sportsbook. But when you look at Arizona, they still have San Francisco twice. Like, you might be punting on them, but how does Cliff Kingsbury get this team not to punt on themselves?
Well, I think the team needs to – I don't think they respect him as a coach.
Okay.
As some players respect their coaches throughout the league. And the reason why I say that is because oftentimes you see too many back and forths with him and his star quarterback, Kyler Murray. When you look at some of the other noteworthy coaches in the National Football League that are play callers, that have an experienced guy at the quarterback position, you don't necessarily see that disconnect for all of us to talk about. We've seen that quite a few times on the sideline in a meaningful game between Kyler Murray and Cliff Kingsbury. And lo and behold, who knows what happens behind closed doors. So I think there's a disconnect between the play caller and the quarterback. And because of that, I don't see them going very, very far. And they're a little bit too far behind. Granted, they're not that far behind record-wise, but just in regards to being consistent in production. I still like Seattle, even though Seattle took one on the chin today against Tampa. I still like San Francisco, oh, by the way, with them getting extremely healthy on both sides of the football. So best case scenario for the Cardinals, third best in the division. And I think that's doable.
Yeah, absolutely. And you laid it out perfectly, BMAC, because even if you try to squint and figure out a way for the Cardinals to get into this thing, are they better coached than Seattle? No. Are they better coached? Do they have better players than San Francisco? Absolutely not. And there's no other teams at the bottom, the Cowboys, the Giants, the other wild card teams as we sit here, that I feel like the Cardinals have any chance of leapfrogging, especially given how they play in the second half of seasons under Cliff Kingsbury. And to your point, BMAC, it's one thing if Kyler Murray is playing like Josh Allen or Patrick Mahomes when they're on point and everyone else around them is balling out. Kyler Murray is about 65% of those two quarterbacks, and everyone else around him is about 50% of what the Bills and the Chiefs have. And you add on top of that Cliff Kingsbury, if they can't get along, there is no chance that this team is sniffing the playoffs. And again, we'll have the same conversation in the offseason about Cliff Kingsbury's future, but they just gave that man a contract extension, so it may be a situation where he's going to be in Arizona, Josh McDaniels will be in Las Vegas, and they can hang out together in the summertime out in the desert somewhere.
Do you want a sports network that delivers everything that matters about the game? The highlights, the picks, the instant analysis, no yelling, no fake debates, no politics. Hit the subscribe button and never miss a moment.